let the soy battle begin. And I call it the battle, Tyler, because it's been ongoing.
Yes.
You hear it's good, it's not good, we should have it, we shouldn't, and I think it just confuses people. So you're going to take us back to physiology first.
Yes, it's a very controversial topic. People are divided. Consumers especially are unclear about exactly what is the connection between soy and cancer, and soy and other things. And then even health professionals are constantly battling over the same things as well. And it seems like the reason why there's so much inconsistency is because there's so many caveats. It depends on so many different things. A lot of it is based on physiology, which is what I'm going to try to talk about as much as I can today.
Okay.
So let's just talk about estrogen first. So the controversy involves around certain foods, soy being one of them, containing phytoestrogens.
And these are our soybeans, right?
So that's what before it becomes tofu or soy milk or tempeh. This is basically
and
what
they're
it looks
delicious.
like. And they are delicious. They're buttery, good. So because people hear they contain phytoestrogens, which basically is a plant estrogen. It's not estrogen at all. There's nothing women-like about any of the stuff here. Nothing women-like. It has a shape similar to our body's own estrogen, so we call them phytoestrogens, just as a class of chemicals, not exclusive to soy. In fact, all of these foods on this table contain plant-based estrogens, some of which, like flax, actually contains more phytoestrogens from a different molecule, but it contains more phytoestrogen than soy. So people hear this and they think, okay, so if things like hormone replacement therapy have been shown to increase risk of cancer, then it makes sense that food sources of estrogen would have the same effect. That's a total reasonable conclusion to make. It makes total sense. So,
but is it right?
It's not totally right, no, because and the reason why I have to go to physiology is because you have to understand that to see where the difference lies. So I'm going to talk about estrogen first. So I brought these in before.
Love your blocks.
Little shapes. They're like molecules. So this is a molecule of estrogen. So as a woman, I'm not speaking as one, but women, they secrete estrogen, which we'll say looks like this. And estrogen is something that when it's floating around in the bloodstream, it's not doing anything. It's only when it binds to a receptor and communicates to the tissue that it's receiving that it has an effect. So estrogens, like all hormones, they're communication molecules. So they're secreted by one area of the body, attached to another, and communicate that signal to that part of the body. So what you have is you have estrogen floating around, secreted by, say, a person's ovaries, and attaches to the receptors, which we have, tons of throughout our bodies. And when it attaches, what allows it to attach, first of all, is a specific shape. Estrogen fits into an estrogen receptor like a lock fits, or a key fits into a lock.
Cool.
So you have this exact shape happening, and estrogen stimulates this receptor, and that signals the tissue to do things. So that's what causes women to be women. It allows for childbirth. Basically, you need estrogen in order to have all womanly characteristics, essentially, right? So all throughout, from the time a woman is born to the time she hits menopause, when estrogen levels crash, there's always estrogen exposure. You have a lifetime level of these things attaching into receptors, causing an effect. Now, where there is a link between estrogens and cancer is that the more lifetime exposure a person has to estrogen, the more likely they are to develop estrogen-dependent cancers.
Okay.
So if someone produces a ton of estrogen, or is in contact with external sources of estrogen, like xenoestrogens from plastics and that type of thing, or hormones from, say, dairy production, for instance, that lifetime exposure of these things hitting estrogen receptors does increase the risk of specific cancers.
But not necessarily eating things with the phytoestrogen in it.
Exactly. So where this comes in is when you have lots of this happening, over time you get increased risk of cancer. Phytoestrogens are called phytoestrogens because they have a similar shape to estrogen, but not quite. So what happens is you have all these receptors in your body still, and so let's assume I just ate this bowl of phytoestrogens. Let's assume I was a woman and I just ate this bowl of phytoestrogens, or soy, which contains phytoestrogens. I have all of these things circulating in my bloodstream now, and what happens is they will attach, they will be welcomed into the receptor because they sort of kind of fit, not entirely, but they fit close enough that they actually make it into the receptor, but they exert a mild effect. So they actually exert an estrogenic effect, like the receptor detects, okay, there's estrogen there, kinda, and it's exhibiting a mild effect. So it is acting like estrogen, only a mild version of it, but what it's doing is it's leaving these guys out in the cold. So your body's own estrogen, this stuff has nowhere to go now. So you have these sites, receptor sites, occupied by plant-based phytoestrogens, leaving the more stimulative kind out in the cold. So you can think of, if you look at long-term studies with There's a ton of studies with Asian women, for instance, who consume large quantities of soy-based products. They have a lifetime exposure of this happening to their receptors, leaving their body's own estrogen out in the cold. So if you were to quantify this,
we're going to have to get you to wrap it because we're, believe
yeah.
it or not, out of time.
Almost out of time.
Yeah.
You have a lot less stimulation happening with phytoestrogens than you do with this.
Which makes perfect sense. So having some soy in our system is okay.
It's protective of cancer is the general consensus. It has either a slightly positive to no effect.
Okay.
In generally speaking.
So you know what I'm going to ask you to do is continue on this conversation when you're back in a few weeks, because I think we've sort of learned a little bit, and now we can learn some more. So about what to do with it, which is fantastic, and what foods we can have, and talk about when you come back as well the GMO side of soy in general. So I'm going to leave that with you, Tyler.
Good flip side would be menopause too, because that plays into.
Of course, that's the thing. Like, there's so many factors. So do some research, ask some questions, and you can go to Full Circle Health Care and Supplements for more details. And ask the questions. Ask the questions. Get educated. 131 Upper Centennial Parkway, where you can go in Stony Creek. 905-930-7769. FullCircleHealthcare.ca.